none of this lives in a vacuum. You learn from early on that being valuable means being willing to be overextended. And then we take that story with us for the rest of our life, into business, into relationships, into marriage, into money, all of it, including rest. And then suddenly my free afternoon does not feel like rest and recovery. It feels like a test because my body, my somatic response, and my nervous system has learned free time is not for recovery. Free time is where you catch up with your day. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the Medicinal Melange podcast. Just as a reminder, I do feature this in traditional podcast form, but I also have this in a visual form on my YouTube channel. I was looking at all the notes for the astrology this week because the astrology is quite thick. We have Mercury about to retrograde. We had the sun trining the nodes. So that was kind of interesting to look back yesterday at all the things that were happening because it kind of gives us a snapshot into what we can expect moving forward. Now, what's really cool and interesting about this is last night, I also taught a class to members of my Star membership, which is access to one astrological perspective switch or, AKA class. But I like to think of it as a perspective shift because the way I teach things, it really does have you looking at shit differently. And it was actually on the nodes. So we got to look at current events. We got to discuss maybe people born around eclipses and what that means and why the eclipses and the nodes are kind of tied together. But we also have the sun squares Neptune this week. Mars enters Gemini this week. We have a full moon in Capricorn. And then we go right into Mercury retrograde in Cancer. So it's a lot. So like I said, the astrology is astrologizing. But I did want to talk today about rest because I was kind of freaking out the other day. I'm not going to lie. Maybe like when you think rest, you are on some like sandy surface with linen pants and cucumber water kind of rest. I do love that type of rest too, but I do want to talk to you about the kind of rest that makes you do the opposite, if that makes sense. This is the kind of rest that almost like forces you into a panic. And I'll tell you why. This rest is the type of rest where technically you have a ton of time for it, but your body and your brain do not interpret this time as freedom of choice, freedom to choose rest. They interpret this downtime as a threat, like, oh, good, an open window. Hurry up and prove that you deserve to exist within this 5 minute of extra breathing time that you might have. And look, there's a lot of conditioning behind it. Maybe you're like, okay, well, what does this have to do with anything, Elizabeth? And lovely, I will tell you. On Monday this week, after meeting with a couple sun and moon clients, these are like one-on-one meetings. So I found myself done early with my sessions for the day. And there was a pocket of time where theoretically I could have rested. I could have softened, maybe getting into my comfies. That's what I call my athleisure. It's the only time I actually wear athleisure, and I max out my reps of how many times can I dip my chip into my dip bowl. So anyway, the thing is I could have let my body do what it does, come down from holding space for everybody through astrology, through psychology, behind all of the behavior patterns via readings, because there is a lot of brain power and energetic weight of the emotional work that I do with my clients. And a lot of times my body holds that. I feel it at the end of the day. But instead of like, cool, chill, let's watch Love Island, catch up, eat some chips and dips, I instead was instantly feeling this huge pressure to use my time wisely. And yes, y'all know I am a super Virgo. So I always kind of feel this buzz of how can I be more efficient in this moment? But this wasn't this cute planner girl type way. This was a signal, a direct somatic signal that my body thinks I am being chased by the consequences of my own lack of capacity to hold. Listen, some of it is practical. I own my own business. I manage my own time. There is no manager standing over me telling me to clock in and clock out, which sounds, in theory, pretty freeing until you realize the manager is now in your head and has become this like Victorian factory owner with Wi-Fi. So there's always tasks. If you got time to lean, you got time to clean is like always imprinted in my mind. And so there are client recordings to send out. There are emails. There are content ideas. There are sales running. There's podcast episodes that I have to write, YouTube videos to edit. There is always somebody I need to respond to. There's my family life, laundry sitting in the back of my closet that is silently judging me, maybe, or like whatever chair it's chosen to live on instead of going to my closet. So if rest is only allowed after everything's done on my to-do list or on your to-do list, the rest never comes. That is the part I want to sit with today together, because I don't think most of us have a rest problem. I think we have this like reputation problem. A lot of us have built an identity, our identity, around being the person who can handle more, the person who stays late to get whatever needs to be done, no matter their capacity or the time it takes. Maybe the one who takes work home. I did that a ton. And there is dignity in being responsible. I do not want to be like, ugh, you're doing it for nothing. You're taking the time to care. I'm a super Virgo. I am devoted to the discipline of doing good work, putting out quality work. But there's also a very specific kind of conditioning that happens when you are praised over and over again for giving your rest, that empty space and time, right? Your rest away. But that really starts very early. School ends, but when you go home, you do homework. The official day is over, but the day's not actually over. There's still more to prove and to complete and turn in. More evidence that you are responsible, you're capable, you're advanced, you're disciplined, all of these things. You're good. It's another big reason, for me at least, why I made the point to homeschool my children. And I'm not saying that homework is evil or that learning and practicing outside of school is bad, but I am saying that we learn very young that our time off, our rest time, is negotiable. And like achievement and success and putting in the extra effort is not negotiable. The kid who does extra schoolwork gets praised. The teacher who stays late gets praised. The employee who answers the email after hours gets praised. The parent who never stops going above and beyond. Everyone's like, oh, do you want to take this over? Because they give the best snacks and they theme it. The business owner who's always available to customers gets praised. I will tell you, I used to be that person. Now I'm like, okay, I'll answer this email in the morning. Not everything is urgent. So almost none of them, if you think about all those examples, almost none of them, or none of that praise rather, comes with actual compensation. None of it comes with support or any sort of repair for that matter. It's just like an applause. Good job. You abandon yourself again. But it has better branding. So it seems really cool. They saw me. They thanked me for putting in that extra effort. It's like, okay, but you needed the rest. You didn't need to put extra effort out. And I will say firsthand, as a former special education teacher, this is not theoretical for me. I lived inside this system where going past your limits is treated like proof of morals. Teachers work outside contract hours all the time. There's planning. There's paperwork. There's always paperwork. IEPs, special education, or even if you don't teach special education, you got to know what everybody else is doing in your class and what their learning needs are and this, that, and the other. But that takes planning. That takes extra time. Parent communication, documentation. IEPs don't start and stop with your kid. There's a lot of documentation. Adapting lessons, BIPs, which are behavioral intervention plans, crisis support, emotional labor. And then the invisible work of carrying your students home with you in your mind after the day. People will tell you, oh my God, you're so amazing. You just are so strong for everybody. They will tell you you're strong. And I got that a lot too when my daughter was sick. Nobody actually wanted to, and I realized I don't live near my family, but it was like, it wasn't, hey, let me come help. Let me take some things off your plate. It's like, you're so strong, you're so dedicated. And it's like, well, what fucking choice do I get? Any sort of rest, I am stressing. I am not eating. I am not happy. I am not living. And so they'll tell you that you were called to do the work, or, if it's like teaching, I always hear that, like, I was just had a calling. And it's true, I did, to help students, but admin and all the other shit just made it terrible. But they are not wanting to pay you for it. They will not always staff the classroom appropriately for the ratios needed to be successful. They will not always give you the resources you need. You will never have the things you need to be successful. And unfortunately, that's part of being a teacher, is working with what you have and making it work. And they're not going to, even as they see you going above and beyond and sacrificing your rest for all this, they still are not protecting your time. They don't protect your planning time, your lunch, your evenings, your body, your mental health. And I'm, again, just speaking from experience, but I'd love to hear your experience in the comments about how this maybe shows up in your world, whether it be, managing your home or in corporate. None of this lives in a vacuum. You learn from early on that being valuable means being willing to be overextended. And then we take that story with us for the rest of our life, into business, into relationships, into marriage, into money, all of it, including rest. And then suddenly my free afternoon does not feel like rest and recovery. It feels like a test, because my body, my somatic response, and my nervous system has learned free time is not for recovery. Free time is where you catch up with your day. That sentence feels ultra fucking disgusting, because it's true. It's how I feel in my body. And I think that's why rest can feel so hard for those of us who are self-employed, or holding together entire departments because your boss is a fucking asshole, or over functioning in your role because the other person that you asked to help you with never shows up, never steps to the plate. Maybe you're managing your home. It's 2026, so it's challenging for everyone trying to create financial stability right now, and also trying to not turn into this like, ooh, haunted productivity, where it's like 2 a.m. and you're like snapping lights on and off to get shit done. Because when you are carrying a lot of financial and emotional infrastructure on your shoulders, on your emotions, rest is not going to feel like you are taking a break. It feels like you're risking the structure that you need to feel safe. For me on Monday, it felt like if I stop, it's almost like I worry that everything will fall apart. If I drink water and sit for an hour, is that me being responsible with my time? If I enjoy myself and go out for a little bit before all of my to-do list is done, am I threatening my stability, threatening what I'm trying to create in the future? And this is where I want to bring in the astrology, because in astrology, rest is not just one thing in your chart. If we are looking at our relationship to rest, there are several places that I can look at. But today, I especially want to talk about the fifth house, because the fifth house is joy and being playful and curious and leisure and all of those beautiful rest fun things. It also is the part of the chart that I look to see how we're living. Where's our vitality, our spark? So that sentence alone can make some of us literally want to crawl out of our own skin. Because if you're conditioned to earn rest, earn joy, earn those moments where you're just like lost in conversation for hours, this sense of ease can feel really confronting. And for me, my fifth house is Capricorn. So joy does not always show up of like, yeah, let's just be playful. Let's figure it out as we go. Capricorn in the fifth house is going to make my chart and my placements feel like I have to earn the right to enjoy this right now. And that pleasure, that rest has to be earned. Rest has to be scheduled in. Thank God for one of my assistants. She literally writes in on my schedule, like, bitch, lay down. Have you eaten? So she knows me and my chart, and she knows I internally feel like me being a leisure lady that lunches has to be justified. Creativity to me and in my chart, it has to be useful. I'm out on a hike, enjoying my time. Well, I'm going to record some B-roll in order to bring content. So that way it wasn't a waste. So that's just how I feel, right? And as much as I loathe that and actually am so diligent about not using my phone, I also know I need B-roll. And so I inherently believe enjoyment has to wait until the responsibility, till my B-roll gets done. And then I can enjoy my fun day out. So if the responsible thing is never done, then pleasure in any form becomes this thing I just keep putting off until like this imaginary future version of me has cleared off every little to-do thing on my list. And I know that sounds silly, right? Because when we say these things, these worries, these unchecked fears out loud, it does sound silly. But the goal is how it feels. And it feels like I have to become so efficient that the universe hands me this permission slip to sit the fuck down, which is ridiculous. But those are the breaks. My moon is also in Capricorn in my fourth house. So this isn't just productivity. It's more emotional. It's tied to my family, tied to my sense of safety. It's the role of being the one who holds it all together. Now, obviously, within my relationship, I'm very lucky to have somebody who probably does more than his fair share. But when I feel behind, it doesn't just feel annoying to me. It feels like a threat to my security and my stability and my nervous system. It gets really loud inside of my brain where I'm just like looping patterns that don't actually exist. I have a Mercury first house, so I'm just like, it's right on top of my sun. So I feel like I have to keep going. Everything depends on me. And that loop just kind of goes. And part of that is true. There are real commitments that I've made with clients to show up at a certain day, a certain time. There's real people that depend on me. And I'm not pretending we can all just take a bath and spiritually opt out of capitalism. But this is where we live. The bills are billing at a rapid speed. I'll pay a bill and I'm like, oh shit, another one's due already. Got it. So we're not trying to think our way around this machine that we are forced to participate in. But I do my best to slow down and ask myself, like, okay, am I working because this needs to be done now? Or am I working because rest makes me feel like, if I take a rest, then I'll lose out on a client or something like that. There's some sort of status level that I'm losing by taking a rest. And I think that when I really sat with those ideas and continued practice sitting with these ideas when I'm in this triggered space, I realized that rest is equated a lot of the times to our reputation. Some of us are not trying to be productive. We're trying to maintain this status, this reputation of being capable, of being reliable. Look, I'm hardworking. I'm needed. That's another one. Think to the last job you had that you overworked yourself. I bet you worked your ass off. just to show you we're worth keeping around, and pain, right? And when productivity becomes the way we protect our reputation, rest then feels like a threat to this identity that's making us feel safe. So this week, when I did start to feel that panic, one of the things that helped me in the past, and I had to use this coping strategy now, was I put on like a little timer and I write down what I've done, because my body is in this pressure state already and my brain isn't trying to acknowledge the things I've done. It's thinking about the 80 things on my rapidly growing to-do list that I haven't done. So when we're looking at it, we talk about open loops in the Moon membership. It's our brain scans for the open loop. It directly hits your nervous system when that happens. So your brain doesn't notice the 30 micro tasks you've done. It just sees the one thing you haven't done yet. Spiraling Mercury and a spiraling brain at that point, where we're repeating these loops, will completely ignore the fact that you saw clients, that you organized the room, that you made decisions, that you managed your life, answered people, whatever it is for you. You kept the household moving. You kept yourself upright. You did not, in fact, lie on the floor eating chips out of the family-sized bag. And I think that should be celebrated a little bit. I recently made a post about it where I take this zodiac plate that I have. I take candles whenever I've completed something and I light it and I celebrate myself a little bit, because my Mercury and Virgo first house brain does not love to celebrate the little things. It likes to point out everything I haven't done. So for you and for me, instead of making another list of everything you have to do, start making a list of the things that you've already done. Have the receipts before the rest. I feel like that's what we're going to call it today. Receipts before rest. That's cute. You don't have to earn rest, but sometimes your brain does need evidence. It doesn't want to just feel like it's a good time to take a break. It wants to see, look at all of these things I've done. My alarm goes off every 25 minutes. I write down what I did for that 25 minutes. If it is, I sat on the toilet and took a shit, then so be it. Also, I'm a very quick pooper, so it's never 25 minutes, but I'll put poop and then did 8 things within that 25 minutes. But you're looking at what you completed today. What did you carry today? I helped my daughter find her makeup brush. Where's my phone? Any of this. What did I do that helped me move forward on a goal? That's a big one. Even if it's not finished, right? I put in 20 minutes towards writing my book. What work did my body do? I did the 30-minute morning ritual reset. It's giving your brain receipts. The pressure story of you did nothing gets flipped of like, actually, no, here's the record of the shit that I did. And it worked for me in that moment. It has worked for me in the past. It's worked for some of my clients that this comes up in their own life. So yeah, when we look at my list, maybe it doesn't say, oh, I completed this massive project, but it does say like, I made choices. I showed up. I held people. I moved things. I cared, whatever it is. And that allows me also to put down, like, I rested, I'm living. I'm allowed to stop before I collapse. And here's the receipts proving that I've done a lot of shit within this last hour. That's the part I'm working on. I don't need to rest when I'm dead. I have a huge habit of waiting until I have pushed my body towards the point of no return, to the brink, and then my entire system just crashes. So I'm trying to not wait until my body is so depleted that there's no other option. I will tell you, I did that for 40 years. I'm done doing that. But also, I can acknowledge the fact that in my conditioned capitalist mind, rest is almost seen as the opposite of being responsible. Consider maybe rest is how you stay responsible in your life. Rest helps you protect the work that you're doing. When you're rested, it allows you to be better for the future. Ask yourself, what if rest is part of how you build financial stability without sacrificing yourself? Not, oh, she does so good. Isn't she so strong? I think it's just as powerful to be like, she knows when to stop. She knows her boundary. She's not giving up rest to prove she's a good person. She trusts her body. She trusts her life. That's the rewrite. That's the goal, at least for me. And I hope for you too, if you're not there. I think that's why the fifth house, again, is so important, because the fifth house is asking the question around productivity of what are we allowed to enjoy before we have to justify our existence. What if we start treating joy not like it's a fucking reward? The act of enjoyment is not some sort of dessert after you ate your whole meal. So if you're listening and you want to look at your own chart, I want you to pull it up. And if you don't know how to do that, please get a reading with me. I'd be happy to walk you through this all in regular terms. But I want you to pull up your chart and look at your fifth house. Look at the sign, look for the number 5, and then see the line that connects to the 5. That's the sign that will show you part of the relationship you have with joy and pleasure and rest and leisure and this creative spark that keeps us alive, keeps our vitality, our lust for life alive. If you have Aries on the 5th, maybe you need some spontaneity. If it's Taurus, you want the radical act of not rushing through the nice parts of life. You're going to want to sit down and enjoy that ice cream as you sit outside. If you're more Gemini, maybe you don't work on another project right away. Maybe we just chill for a minute. Cancer, create spaces that allow you to just put down your armor and relax. Remember, Leo, that sometimes in order to be creative and to show up in those unique ways, we do have to have some joy to fuel it. Virgo in the 5th, just watch the part of you that tries to turn rest into another way that you can self-improve. If you have Libra on the 5th, maybe pleasure is a Pinterest board with aesthetics that you want to bring into your life. Do not think that doing another task or going to the DMV under this fluorescent light is like how you rest. That's not it. If Scorpio's in your 5th house, we want to make sure you're creating space where you don't have to perform being fine. If you have Sagittarius, we don't want to escape. That's okay. We don't want to just like go from next thing to next thing to escape really sitting with the quiet of rest. If you have a Capricorn 5th house like me, again, we feel like we have to earn pleasure and rest. So rest might have to be a little bit more intentional. Aquarius, the 5th house, your joy, your rest needs to be kind of quirky. Yeah. You might need to give yourself permission to enjoy the things that maybe nobody else likes. And it seems a little weird to them. Do that thing. If Pisces is on your 5th, we just need to not be on both sides of the veil. We don't need to think about this side and this side. Just be present in the moment. And then if you want to take it a step further, sure, we can look at the ruler of the 5th house sign, because that'll definitely tell you more. So for instance, Capricorn, right? Saturn rules my 5th house. So I look for Saturn in my chart. That's where I get to practice rest. It's not going to tell you you're bad at resting. It's just going to show you the story underneath it all. It shows you kind of how joy gets tangled up in the bullshit of responsibility. And once you see the full story and the whole picture, you have more of a choice. You can still do everything on your to-do list, but you don't have to build the whole thing on top of a body that is just completely depleted. And I know personally, especially because I had this trigger on Monday, that's where I'm putting my effort for this week, is letting rest become part of my reputation and my daily ritual. I'll be honest, most of y'all think I do too much already, but the private reputation I have with myself is what I'm trying to nurture and repair a little bit. The one where my body knows I'm not going to just push it to the max and abandon its needs that it's signaling somatically. It's okay that I'm behind on a task. Sometimes we're behind. Sometimes nothing gets done in the time we think, and we need to be able to just be truthful and face the facts. but not feel like we're failing people. It's not necessarily an identity. Maybe you feel like a failure because you're far behind, so that's why you don't allow yourself to rest, but maybe it means you need more support. Maybe it means that the timeline set on you is not realistic. You agreed to this much, but you can only hold this much. It might mean that your system needs some sort of adjustment. If you found yourself in this kind of predicament this week, I want you to know that you are not lazy or bad at lifing and taking care of people. We just want to sit with like, what version of like how people see me am I trying to protect and avoiding rest? Remember that you can be responsible and rested. In a culture that profits from you being fucking depleted, I don't see that as lazy. I actually see it as kind of rebellious. There will always be more work. The inbox will regenerate and have 30 more messages, but your body is not a machine that has to break before you get to pause. So I pulled a card for today, and I think it's really a fun card, being that we're talking about rest as like this golden reputation that we hold. But I have the larger tarot set, and I pulled the Hierophant reverse. And with the Hierophant reversed, this is nonconformity. This is doing it your way. So maybe you listen to this and you're like, yes, I'm picking up what you're putting down, and I'm not going to write a list. Okay, don't write a list. That's just what my Capricorn brain needs. But you need to come with your perspective on it and make sure that we are moving away from these traditional things that we are force fed, especially with Mercury retrograde on the horizon. We have Mars moving into Gemini. It's going to also conjunct with Uranus, which is a massive part of this astrology. If you've taken my nodes class, that's available to stars members and sun members within the Melange. But if you've taken my nodes class, you know that we have the nodes shifting as well, which are going to activate these nonconformist ideas and theories within our own brains. We're going to start to think about this more. How do we take care of the collective, not in this traditional set? So I do love the Hierophant reverse for today. And with that, I hope you have a great week. As always, remember you can find me at themedicinalmelange.com. I would love to see you inside of the Melange, which is my app and online space. We have 3 levels of the Melange: the Sun membership, which is a 12-month program; the Moon, which is a month-to-month program; and the Stars. The Stars is $44 a month, and you get access to 1 perspective shift, 1 class per month, in addition to everything else inside the Melange. I'm talking backlog library of past classes. I have a medical astrology library, so you can find your sign and see all of the imbalances and balances that you need to maintain that vitality, that spark. We also have a summer book club that's about to start on July 1st. And yeah, I would love for y'all to check it out, see what level of support I can offer you that will best suit your life that you're currently living, in addition to the life that you're trying to usher in. So I hope you have a great day, and I will talk to y'all next time. Bye.